Now, the management of a Norwood 5 patient depends on whether the patient is young or old. Today, I will take you through how we would treat a younger Norwood 5 patient, in other words, less than 40 years old, who comes into our clinic aiming to restore his hair. So right off the bat, we know that because the patient is young and they're already a Norwood 5, they're very sensitive to DHT. Because they're so sensitive to DHT, they're likely losing hair quite rapidly, and so stabilization is very, very important. Now, we would usually start with a 5-alpha reductase blocker, such as finasteride and minoxidil. Minoxidil can either be oral minoxidil or topical minoxidil with an adjunct on the side. So that could either be microneedling or topical tretinoin, as I've discussed in lots of other videos. We would actually reassess the patient's hair after 6 months instead of, say, 12 months with a Norwood 3 patient. And that's because it's a priority to stabilize that loss, given that that patient is likely losing hair quite rapidly. And we would reassess the patient with, and not all clinics actually do this, with trichoscopy, which is a high-powered microscope that looks at the hair follicles in a much more detailed view, and we're able to see things that the naked eye isn't able to see. If we reassess with trichoscopy after 6 months and the patient is still not stabilized, in other words, we can see evidence of hair loss progression after 6 months, then we will tweak the patient's medications for the 6 months after that. We might introduce a once-weekly dutasteride, we might increase the dose of minoxidil. Either way, we will then go another 6-month period, after which we reassess with trichoscopy again. 99% of patients I can stabilize after 12 months, even if they're Norwood 5 and very young. So once we've stabilized the patient after 12 months, we then are able to have a discussion, okay, what do we want to do next? With a younger patient, we are more likely to see regrowth because those follicles have not been consistently damaged over many years because they're young. And that allows us to see, okay, how much more do we want to restore? We can only restore what has been lost with hair transplant surgery. So the discussion of whether the patient wants a hair transplant at that point then happens. Now, what I'm about to tell you is, in my opinion, the smartest approach to hair transplant surgery that a young Norwood 5 patient can take. There is absolutely no doubt that this Norwood 5 patient is going to need the maximum number of grafts possible over their lifetime, because if they're young and already a Norwood 5, then they're definitely going to lose more hair. At our clinic, we would therefore recommend the patient starts with FUT strip surgery, which, and I'm sure I sound like a broken record now on my channel, gives the average patient an extra 2,500 to 3,000 grafts over their lifetime versus starting FUE first. And specifically, what I would do differently with the strip on a Norwood 5 patient compared to, say, a Norwood 3 patient is we would try and shoot for an as much as possible procedure. The as much as possible procedure involves going for as wide a strip and as long a strip that the patient's scalp allows. The more scalp laxity the patient has, the more wide we can actually go with the strip. And the more wide we go with the strip, the more grafts we can take with the strip and transplant, and the more density the patient is able to achieve. Just like in this patient here, we usually take a nice big strip that scoops up all the most DHT resistant, healthiest hair follicles in that occipital area there, and we rebuild a nice natural frontal third. The patient is then set up to get a ton more grafts in the future should he wish to go for either strip surgery after that or FUE. But if he's good with his medication, he's unlikely to need any more surgery after the first one. I hope this video was helpful, guys. If you are interested in getting a more personalized opinion on your current level of hair loss, a future prediction of your hair loss, my opinion on how good your donor area is, as well as a personalized treatment plan, shoot me an email at drpriestess@gmail.com. Look forward to seeing you in the next video.